studios in New York City. This is Charlie Rose.
Rafael Correa is here. He is the president of Ecuador. I'm pleased to have him here to talk about his country, his sense of where Latin America may be going, and what he believes is the best way to do more things for the people of Ecuador. Welcome.
No, thank you very much for inviting me, Charlie. For me, it's an honor to be here and to meet you.
When you look at your goals for Ecuador, what are they?
Well, to eliminate poverty. First of all, this is the moral imperative for our government, I think, for Ecuador, and it should be for the entire world. So to eliminate poverty, to have a country with justice, dignity, prosperity, and sovereignty.
And what do you have to do to achieve that?
This is a very good question. Thank you very much, because I have studied all my life development. Before becoming president, I was professor. I studied economics here in the States. And I can tell you that development is basically a political process, especially in Latin America. You have to change power relationship. Why we are underdeveloped? Because we have historically been controlled by little powerful groups, our elites. So you have to change this power relationship, and we are doing exactly that through very democratic processes. But later, it's not just a political process, it's also a technical process. After changing this relationship of power, you have to be very technical in order to improve your people's standard of living.
If there was too much power in the elite, how will you eliminate that power and give more power to the people?
Changing institutions, changing policies, changing programs. For instance, we had a new constitution. The former constitution gave a lot of advantages to some groups. For instance, our new constitution prohibits to have a bank and to have media.
Yes.
That was a very important source of illegitimate power for some groups.
Yes.
So in Ecuador, if you are a banker, you must be a banker. If you want to have a media, you just can to have a media, but you cannot have both of them. It's a good thing to start having public media. Controlled not by the government, by the society.
That's my point. Okay.
By the society.
Does the media in Ecuador criticize the president?
Of course. And the private media, all the time, every day, because most of them are owned by this elite that we are, I don't know if the right word is to say fighting to, or fighting. Anyway, but the public media also, they have independence, they can criticize the government.
Let me talk about how you see the role of government, and you're obviously identified as a socialist.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Modern socialist, yes. To look for social justice.
And who have been the academics as well as the political figures who have influenced the way you see government?
Well, my political thinking has been influenced by the social doctrine of the Catholic Church, and also the Teología de la Liberación, liberation theology.
Yes.
Because I work in my youth with these groups. But also for several experiences in Latin America, Lula da Silva in Brazil, etc.
Yes. Lula in Brazil.
Yes.
In Venezuela.
Well, Hugo Chavez too.
Hugo Chavez.
Of course.
Yeah. He was a political hero.
Well, he was a political leader.
And you admire both Lula and Chavez because of what they did in changing their country?
Of course. Yeah. You should remember what was Venezuela before Chavez. Venezuela was several years the most important oil producers in the world. And where all this money went, outside of the country, overseas, etc. So now Venezuela is strongly reducing poverty. Is one of the most equal countries in Latin America. Before was one of the more unequal countries. So Chavez did very strong changes, positive changes in Venezuela.
In addition to reducing poverty, there's a question of medical care. There's a question of education.
Yes, of course.
There's a question of jobs. How will you meet those challenges?
Well, we have been very successful on these policies and on these sectors. For instance, we are doing a lot of reforms in education and improving very fast our education system, also our health system. And our economic performance is one of the best in the region. For instance, our unemployment rate is around 4%.
Better than the United States.
I didn't want to say that, but you said.
Define the relationship with the United States today.
Well, we would like to improve this relation. I think we have good relation, but it could be better.
How could it be better?
To know each other in a better way, to understand what is going on in Ecuador, to know a little bit more, not just Ecuador, the whole Latin America.
Do you have a sense that the United States listens to you, that the United States cares about what you say, that the United States cares about the future of Ecuador?
Define what is United States, the government, the people,
Well,
the academia.
Well, my reference then was to the government of
Well,
President Obama.
Honestly, I don't think so.
Why do you believe that?
Well, usually the foreign policy of the United States hasn't taken into account Latin America. And this is a mistake. Perhaps Mexico, perhaps Brazil, perhaps Argentina, the biggest countries, the biggest economies, Colombia too, in our region. But there are several other countries, Ecuador, etc., and they are not too much taken into account. And that is a situation that must change.
And what are you prepared to do to see it change?
Well, you know, this is not a priority for us because we are an independent country. At least to let us to continue to do what we think is the better thing for our people.
But here's the interesting question. If you look at Mexico and some other places, do you believe that the private sector can play a role in the economy of a country, number one, and number two, play a role in the economy and contribute to the growth of Ecuador?
But of course.
So that it can do more for its people.
But of course, private sector is fundamental for development, fundamental for the economy, fundamental for society.
Yeah.
We are modern socialists, you know. We don't deny the market, but we have societies must govern the market.
Govern the market.
Yes. And, every national private investment or foreign investment is welcome to Ecuador, but as long as they respect our country, our institution, our laws.
Yeah. And those private companies obviously would ask the question, do you respect, does the government of Ecuador respect the rule of law? Does it respect individual rights and those kinds of things?
The historical experience that is the opposite. Usually, this transnational didn't respect our country. But anyway, the facts. We are receiving a lot of foreign investment right now.
Do you believe the United States government is in any way trying to be in opposition to you?
Well, I don't think so. I think President Obama is a very good person, Mr. Kerry, a very good person, but it's clear that certain groups inside the government, inside the Congress, the Senate, in the society, extreme right-wing groups are against Ecuador, and they are manipulating information, they are telling things that are not true, etc.
One of the questions always comes up with respect to you is what's happening at your embassy with the head of WikiLeaks, the offering of asylum to Edward Snowden. Help us understand that. What is your attitude about that, and what did the government of Ecuador do, and how do you see it?
We didn't offer asylum to Edward Snowden. He requested asylum.
I know he did, and I was going to get to that. I realized I'd spoken
and
about
he has the right to do so.
Yes, of course he does.
It's a human right.
Would you have granted him asylum if he had asked?
to Snowden,
Yes.
we have to think about, but we having a decision over there.
But was there pressure on the part of the United States to urge you not to do it, not to give a place for him to go when he was in Moscow?
Well, Vice President Biden called me, and of course we have a very friendly conversation, and we go to listen the position of the United States.
What was the conversation like?
Very, very nice. He
said?
He's a very kind person that for them it's very important to put Snowden in face to the American justice,
Right,
etc.
right.
We understand all that, but they should understand too that we are a sovereign country, and we go to take our own decisions. What about Julian Assange? That should be very clear. Perhaps I don't agree with that Julian Assange did, but that is not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is not politics. The problem is justice. We examined during 2 months the request of asylum of Julian Assange, and we conclude that yes, he was right. Related to what? That there was not guarantee of the due process.
Mm-hmm.
For this reason, we gave asylum to Julian Assange.
Because you thought that they were trying to extradite him to a system that was not due process.
Yes, remember that some people from the United States were asking to penalize him according to laws that included the death penalty.
And so
do you remember that?
Yes, of course I do. Yeah. So,
we don't have death penalty in our
penalty.
country, and according to Inter-American Convention of Human Rights, death penalty is against human rights.
So you thought the due process was not there, so therefore you granted him asylum.
Yes, sir.
And what happens if he wants to come to Ecuador?
He will be welcome.
Why doesn't he come?
Excuse me?
Why doesn't he come?
Well, he can stay as long as necessary in our
the
embassy. Yes.
Yes. And Edward Snowden, if he requests asylum, would be able to get a passport and come to Ecuador?
We should analyze the request.
American foreign policy. What is your opinion of American foreign policy?
Well, okay, I respect a lot United States. I don't like to comment about policies of other countries, but in this case, foreign policies involve us. So I can tell you, usually American foreign policy towards Latin America has been wrong. I think you need to know us more closely in a better way.
That seems easy to accomplish.
Yes, but it is necessary political willingness.
But I mean, the United States has good relations with the government of Brazil, has good relations with
and that is the problem.
The government of Mexico.
For instance,
the government
with some governments, sometimes very questionable governments, if they are considered allies of United States, everything is fine. With other governments, like the Ecuadorian government right now, if they consider that these governments are not good allies of the United States, everything is wrong. Everything is bad. I think that must be improved.
So the United States government and the State Department would say, well, we appreciate the people of Ecuador's right to elect the political leadership that they want. We appreciate an effort, regardless of political philosophy, to eradicate poverty, to provide broader education, to raise the level of health care, and to be a good neighbor. And we realize, the United States might say, that the relationship between the United States and Latin America has had significant reasons for the people to question the United States' interest in Latin America. Was it simply for their own gain? Lots of Americans have made the argument that our relationship with Latin America has, in several instances, involved too much effort to change governments. Yeah, I know, but stay with me.
The record is awful.
Yeah.
Invasion, coup d'etat, etc.
I understand. Fair enough.
Okay.
But that has not been true about the Obama administration. At the same time, they might say to you, what are we to think? Because the people you're the closest to, Hugo Chavez, Cuba, are people that have made it part of their philosophy to consistently attack the United States.
Are you sure about that?
And in cases to deny the human rights of some of their own people.
Charlie, two things. First, that is kind of annoying because, well,
Annoying,
with all
with respect.
No, not your question. This kind of situation. Why? Sorry, I expressed myself in the wrong way. I didn't want to say that. I meant the situation. Because why? For instance, the double standard. The double standard of the government, sometimes a politician in the States. For instance, they criticize Cuba, Venezuela, but they are very close friends, for instance, of Saudi Arabia. Could you tell me that in Saudi Arabia there is democracy?
No,
there is freedom, etc. So at least we can find here a double standard.
Your point's well taken.
Huh?
The point is well taken.
Okay.
We do have good relationships with countries who do not necessarily, believe in democracy as we perceive it. You do believe in democracy as we perceive it, do you not?
I can assure you that in Venezuela there is democracy.
As well. Okay? So clearly we have relationships with governments who do not have...
You have tons of elections.
Right.
Won over and over by the government, but the elite, Venezuelan elite, is not happy with this, so the government must be overthrown. That is very, very difficult and very questionable. Well, and secondly, Charlie, I admire a lot United States. Without any doubt, is the most powerful country in the human history, one of the most successful in the human history. But I think there is a little problem. You have very important values, but you think your values must be universal values, and that is a mistake. We can have different values.
Well, but that's an interesting point about philosophy, and you as an academic are better prepared to talk this than me. But the values that we most seem to believe in are values that the world believes in, having to do with democracy. It's not our definition of democracy.
Who is the world? United States?
Yeah. But if you look at those governments that have been the most successful, they have had those values at the core. The freedom of expression, the freedom of respect for the individual, the question of human rights. Or they've made a strong effort to go. And this government is imperfect, as the president will be the first one to tell you. But they also believe in free markets. We have friends that don't necessarily believe in free markets.
Arguably.
Yes.
Subsidize the agricultural sector in free market?
Yes, indeed. We do subsidize the agriculture. Yes. But tell me how you feel about markets, free markets.
You have said a lot of very interesting things. Let me comment about some of them. Everybody agrees with these kind of values. But remember, for instance, during the French Revolution, in the name of liberty, 3,000 heads were cut.
Right.
So you should be very careful because everybody goes to talk about free speech, free press, freedom, liberty, individual action, etc. So we have different institutions according to different principles, different values. That doesn't mean that here in the United States you are not respecting human rights, and that doesn't mean that in our country we are not respecting human rights. What about free markets? We believe in societies with markets, but not societies overruled by markets, and that's the difference. And I think one of the most important problems in the present time is that markets are controlling everything. We believe in societies with market, but society must govern the markets.
When you look at the Chinese experience of development, what do you think? Are you admiring of it and how they have changed? Deng Xiaoping changed China?
I think that every country must look for the best solution for their problems. And China had huge problems. You can remember the hungry people in China.
More people have been taken out of poverty in China because of the large numbers of people than at any time in the history of the civilization.
We are doing exactly the same. Who is saying the opposite?
I'm not. I'm asking.
Okay, but market is a very good servant, but a terrible master. So society must control this market.
You think that in the United States that the market is the master?
Yes, I think this is
You do?
This is the problem, the base, the problem. Market controlling society, capital controlling human beings. And why United States has been so successful? Because the system allowed, in order to generate technological advances, scientific advances, and that improved the life of everybody. Yeah. But you have a problem of who has the control of the society, who has the power, who is in charge, with all due respect.
Well, with all due respect, I differ on that. But why do you think, and this is a conversation to understand you.
You know that 1% of American people controls more than 1/3 of the national wealth?
Yes, I understand that.
And 10% of the wealthiest people controls 75% of the national wealth?
I do understand that. But let me just ask this. Why do so many people want to come to the United States? What is it about American values and the American experience that you so disagree with? Because they want to come here to work, to have the freedom to do the kinds of things they want, to get an education they want. There's a reason for that. And you seem to be saying that this is a bad society because the market controls everything and capitalism is bad. Yet people around the world want to come here.
Sorry,
and they don't look at this country as a bad place.
Sorry, because I gave you a wrong impression. I didn't make myself clear. I admire a lot the United States. It's a wonderful country, but you have a problem. Okay.
And the problem we have?
That everything is in function of big capital, in function of the market. You didn't feel this problem before because of the technological advances. With the crisis, when you have a scarcity of resources, you start feeling this problem. I see. Well, middle-class families haven't recovered the level of income before crisis, but bankers, etc., have records profits. This is a problem.
Well, clearly that's a fact. I mean, clearly that the financial sector has regained, after being in a very bad place in 2008, has regained its profitability.
I respect a lot every country.
And clearly
I admire a lot the United States. I criticize a little bit the foreign policy and the double standard sometimes in foreign relations.
Environmental issues. There was a group, I think, called Pachacama. Is that right?
Pachacama.
What was your problem with them?
My personal problem? Nothing. But they broke the law. You know, they called to demonstration, and that is fine, against, we call that oil round in order to do a subasta, an option in order to explore the south part of our country, to explore for oil. Well, they have all the right to do demonstration, to protest, etc. But they attack people. And they have to be responsible for these attacks.
As a general, I like people who like me. I assume you feel the same way. But I hear about an Ecuador where, with respect, if you don't like something or if they oppose you, you will shut it down and declare it illegal.
That is not true, with all due respect, Charlie. I came from the academia. I am used to have different criteria, different arguments, etc. But we go to condemn violence. And during this demonstration, there was violence.
And you expelled the U.S. ambassador.
Well, come on. Come on. Did you read the WikiLeaks that this lady sent to the American government? And when we asked her to explain what she sent, this untrue information, she answered us, well, I don't care. I don't have to give you any information. For the reason we had to expel her. It's unfortunately, we don't want to do things like that. But we will make respect our country, to respect our country.
How is your political party doing?
About what?
In most recent elections at the mayoralty level.
Okay, yes. Well, we won last election. We obtain the major quantity of votes. We won most part of municipalities, most part of, well, prefecturas, like here, governors, etc. But we are used to, in soccer terms, we are used to win 5-0. The opposition is used to lose
5-0 is pretty good.
5-0. This time we
You're
won
used to winning all elections?
3-2.
Okay, so you won 3-2. So there were some people who won in certain cities that opposed you and your party.
No, you know, these are not ideological elections. People vote for the person, you know. In sectional election is not ideological election.
Do you want to see Ecuador take on a larger regional role in Latin America? Chavez is gone. Fidel is old, and some say sick. Raul is talking about changing Cuba, transitioning Cuba to more of a market economy.
Of course. And without embargo, that will be faster, even faster.
Well, indeed.
In any case, you know, we are not interested on being more, to have leadership at the regional level, nothing at all. We have enough work inside our country trying to improve the standard of living of our people. But we will be where our country and our Patria Grande, as we called in Spanish, Latin America, have need of us. We will be, we can serve.
Are you optimistic about the relationship with the United States?
I am.
Or don't care?
I am naturally optimistic, always. Yes. And I would like to improve the relation with any country in the world, especially United States, that has been a very close country to Ecuador. So it will be great if we can improve our relationship.
How long will you be president?
Usually until 2017.
Till 2000. What, the new constitution was better than the new old constitution because it accomplished what?
A lot of things. The former constitution was a neoliberal constitution given to a power groups, economic groups, financial groups, a lot of advantages. So the new constitution guarantees a lot of rights for our people.
You know, there are many people today who argue that Canada, the United States, and Latin America ought to have, you know, better trade, better economic relationships, new development, that could make this a remarkably productive time for everything in this hemisphere. What, you disagree with that?
Yes, because
Canada, the United States,
I know.
and Latin America. You disagree with that because what?
I know the history of development. You know who created the modern protectionism? Alexander Hamilton in the States, you know. Always the United States traditionally opposed free market because it didn't have enough technological progress, etc. Once it got all this and it is the most efficient economy in the world, well, now it preaches a free market. But if that were true, well, now Mexico will be a developed country. Almost 20 years of free market with the United States and with Canada. That is not true at all.
Why do most people look at Mexico and think it is has now the best and most effective economy in all of Latin America?
Mexico?
Mexico.
Well,
who has a better economy than Mexico in Latin America?
Ecuador.
Well, really?
According to the Economic Commission for Latin America of the United Nations, where Ecuador is the leader in reducing inequality in the region, one of the 3 countries reducing poverty, etc. Yeah. Okay. We are called the Ecuadorian miracle.
So if I would say to you, or would you say to me, if you want to see the future of what government can do, come to Ecuador?
Well, no, we have done a lot of mistakes, but at least our people know very well that they have the power. that we are acting in order to serve them. That now Ecuador is a sovereign country, and well, our state is a popular state. In order to serve, I insist, majority of people.
Is there part of you that wants to say, now that you came from academia, were finance minister and then elected, have changed the Constitution, that part of what Rafael Correa wants to say is that we will create a model for the world in terms of what a government can do? Is that part of your aspirations?
Of course, we think that we can contribute
that this is a laboratory
to have a
for the
better
future.
world, you know. I think the world order is not just unjust, unfair, it's immoral, double standards everywhere, etc. Always everything in function of the stronger, not in function of justice. So if we can contribute from a little country like Ecuador to have a better world, that will be wonderful.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Charlie. It's been a pleasure to meet you,
Thank
to
you.
know you.